BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.
Hello and welcome to the Scottish Football Podcast. All the news, views and analysis you need in a hopefully digestible chunk. It's Thursday the 17th of October, I'm Jonathan Sutherland, and after the excitement of the international break, the Scottish Premiership is back.
Nicholas Quinn takes a touch and takes the ball to the back of the net. Throws it back, chance, score! Palaversa scores!
And what a game we have as the two unbeaten sides clash at Celtic Park.
Really pleased with this run of games over the course of the three competitions, and we'll get ready for the next batch.
That's 13 wins in a row now. Can you go to Parkhead and make it 14 wins in a row?
We don't count like that. We're going to prepare us to try to give another good game there.
And Neil Critchley will take charge of Hearts for the first time against St Mirren.
It's a challenge, but there's plenty of points and plenty of games to play. We know where we're at, we know what we need to do.
All that and plenty more to come.
The Scottish Football Podcast from BBC Sports Scotland.
We're keeping it in the Scottish Football Podcast family today with two of our favourite sons in the form of Lee Miller and Stephen McGinn. And speaking of family, especially on the international front, lots going on. Let's start with you, Lee. Your son, Lennon Miller, playing for Scotland under-21s last night. Full disclosure, we're recording this on Wednesday afternoon. He scores an absolute worldie, but obviously it ends in disappointment for the team overall. Your thoughts?
A nice wee connection with Stephen doing the commentary as well on the game. It was for me personally, looking at the way Lennon played, he played really well. He was involved in everything that was happening going forward. He's unlucky with a free kick first half. I still don't know how the goalkeeper saved it. He saved it onto the crossbar or the post or whatever. But no, he just went on from strength to strength in the game and he scores a worldie, but they just get caught out. I'm a strong believer. I think if they'd kept 11 men on the pitch, they would have won the game. But the goalkeeper has had a night to remember. Everything he done, he just saved everything. He thrown himself at absolutely every shot that came, even the one that came straight to him. He threw himself at it to punch it away, and he said one of those nights he'll never forget. So unfortunate for the Scotland team, but the Kazakhstan obviously win the game comfortably in the end, I think.
The goal, another feather in the cap for Lennon this season. Speaking of goalkeeping heroics, Craig Gordon pulling out a vital save against Portugal. Stephen, your brother John injured, obviously, which would be disappointing for the various McGinn households. What was your view, in spite of that, of Scotland?
Well, the injury provided a real issue with tickets. the 21s game to the national game, but I think it was a big relief, the last 5-10 minutes, losing so many late goals in the calendar year, not just in this Nations League group, in the calendar year. We've lost so many late goals, so much late disappointment, even again in Croatia, with it celebrating that goal and then losing it. You felt like, just don't do it to us. And when the ball came to Bruno Fernandes, I won't be the only one that just thought goal as soon as he made connection with it. And how Craig Gordon's kept it out, I suppose that's why he's still playing at the top level when he's going to be 42 in December, and really a much needed reward for what's been 4 good performances and a bit of positivity at last coming off the back of a Scotland game.
Absolutely. I was celebrating a 0-0 draw like I haven't done since Wembley 2021, but anyway, good to end the run of defeats. As ever, plenty to get through with Lee and Stephen, but as I mentioned, full disclosure, we're recording on Wednesday afternoon, so we'll skip the headlines and get right down to business and the biggest game of the season so far. There's no getting away from it. Aberdeen have made a phenomenal start to this season. 13 wins out of 13, but Celtic obviously with a 100% record in the league as well. Lee Miller, former Aberdeen player, first of all, just what have you made of this Aberdeen start to the season?
Well, first of all, the manager. The manager's been incredible. It's really gave the city a lift, and you can see the Aberdeen fans backing the team, backing the manager. They had a full house against Hearts recently there. The crowds have been really good. but they're playing good football. But not only that, away from that, I think, see when they're not playing well, they're understanding how to win a game of football. And it's, see the fact that they've won every game, it's a great habit to get into. See, winning games of football, it's a great habit to just churn out results, even though you're not playing well. It's a sign of a really good squad. And I think they've got that, because even though they lost Papagay, who scored a good few goals for them early bells, they brought Kevin Nisbet in, who's done a tremendous job as well. And they're providing goals from all over the place. And you see, speaking about obviously Scotland, you see Nicky Devlin getting his call up to the international setup, and he throws his body on the line in the game for Scotland. He's been doing that every game this season, and he's chipped in with a couple of goals as well. So there's loads of positives that Aberdeen fans can take away. The squad's doing really well. He's created a good environment and culture up there, and they all seem to be playing for the manager, which is good.
Great positives, Lee. Let me pour some cold water over all this for Aberdeen fans listening. When you look at the last 4 matches at Celtic Park between the sides, they've ended 6-0, 5-0, 4-0 and 2-0 for Celtic. That's in the last 4 matches, averaging over 4 goals each time for Celtic. So, the last time Aberdeen got a point at Celtic Park was back on the 9th of March 2019. And the last time Aberdeen won at Celtic Park, that was the 13th of May 2018, 1-0, Andy Considine with the goal. It is fair to say Celtic have been utterly dominant in this fixture over the last 20 years at Celtic Park. And Stephen McGinn, Lee's talking about the positivity at Aberdeen, and clearly that is the case under Jimmy Tillene so far this season. But do you expect that Celtic dominance to continue?
Yeah, well, this is the big test. As you were thinking, can they keep winning as they build up to that game at Celtic Park? And you speak of the last victory at Celtic Park in 2018. In that spell, this is the best Aberdeen team. I know they finished third a couple of years ago, but this is the best Aberdeen team since the Derek McInnes era. And in that period, I mean, Aberdeen were going on runs out with the Celtic games, beating everyone for spells under Derek and Tony. But they would always get to this Celtic game, and Celtic would go to another gear and find a way to beat them. You think of some of Aberdeen's top performances in cup finals, and Celtic would always just find a way under Brendan Rodgers. So it's a huge game for Aberdeen, a huge test for Jimmy Tillene. I think going into the game, they've got to take small bits of confidence in terms of, obviously not quite the run, but Celtic potentially without 2 of their starting back 4. Any Celtic team defence without Cameron Carter-Vickers isn't as strong. And when Jimmy Tillene was getting the job, obviously you're doing research and you're looking at what type of manager he was, and some of the stats at the time, if you think of, they're not going to have a lot of the ball on Saturday against Celtic, but some of these big wins with Elfsborg, we hardly had any possession. There was always like the stat that's they beat Malmo, the Swedish champions, with 19% possession. The one that got me was they beat AIK Stockholm 6-1 with 32% possession. And you think of winning a game 6-1, Lee, you can't in the other team's half, you have loads of possession. So this is a manager going into a game that's comfortable without possession, which Celtic will have a lot of, and they counter-attack really well, and they're targeting a Celtic defence with 2 of its starting backline not available.
Great stats. Let me throw a couple more to try and counterbalance the fact that I sounded like an absolute misery guts from an Aberdeen point of view just a moment ago. The good news for Aberdeen fans is that the last 2 games against Celtic have been draws, 3-3 in the Scottish Cup semi-final, albeit, of course, Celtic won in that dramatic penalty shootout at Hampden Park. The last league game was a 1-1 draw at Pittodrie. That was the 3rd of February earlier this year. Bojan Miovski with the opener for Aberdeen. Nicholas Kuhn equalised. And Lee, it is a massive test for Jimmy Tillene, obviously. How do you expect him to approach it? Do you think he'll just continue doing what he's been doing, or do you think he's going to have to tweak it slightly, maybe throw a curveball into this somehow?
I think he will tweak it slightly, but obviously the stats that Stephen throws out there is very interesting. He's very comfortable the other team having the ball, and that obviously alludes to the fact his squads, his sides are well structured, they're well balanced, they understand the rotations without the ball, because it's all right doing rotations with the ball, but for large chunks of the game you have to be on it, you have to be concentrated, you have to kind of know where you are at different points during a game. And I think It's all bad. Every stat they've thrown out there and we're speaking about it is getting me excited for the game, and it's understanding and wondering how he is going to set up coming down to Celtic Park, because they've not won there in so long. He'll know that. He'll be told that, and I don't think he'll touch too much on that with his players, because they just need to, old cliche, they need to take every game as it comes, and it's Celtic Park's probably one of the hardest games he'll get, and this is going to be a challenge for him. Everybody else is saying they've not had a challenge. I disagree with that. Every game's a challenge because they've not been at their best some games and still managed to win the games. So it will be an interesting affair. It definitely will be.
They obviously had a challenge, Aberdeen, against Hearts at Pittodrie in the last game, Stephen. And Duke, who was persona non grata when he never turned up, obviously, at the start of the season, suddenly back at Aberdeen, comes up with a bit of magic that creates the winner for Ante Palaversa against Hearts. How crucial could he be? And also extending that, you've talked about the tactical aspect with Jimmy Tilleen. He's managed to get a lot out of players at Aberdeen that were sort of misfiring, you'd have to say.
Yeah, well, obviously with the timing of the Papagay injured, Duke returning to fitness is a big plus for Jimmy Tilleen. But they'll tell you, I mean, when you're winning games, nobody can walk about their face tripping them. The subs have to be patient. They have to keep working hard, and what can you say when the team's winning? So it is the easy bit to be a good squad member. There's no, should I go and speak to the manager here because they drew on Saturday, they got beaten Saturday, so-and-so in my position, didn't play well, did I go and see him? So it is, I know it sounds quite obvious, but within a football training ground, Monday to Friday, it is simple for a manager when you're winning, because nobody can have any complaints about not playing, and it is whatever minutes the manager offers me up, I'll try and do my best because the teams just keep winning. So this weekend is a challenge. Is he going to approach it differently? Without having the possession, they can't offer up the big opportunities they're offering up. Obviously, I think Lee, like myself, with interest in Motherwell, would have watched the game late on against Motherwell. Aberdeen were quite clearly the better team, but Motherwell had some big chances near the end of the game. The Hearts game, obviously, Vargas and Lawrence Shankland running clean through. If that's Kyogo, it's a goal. It's game over. So within that, they have to go to another level. The winning run's brilliant, but as a team, as a squad, they have to go to a level they've not quite reached this season.
Lee, there is a financial chasm between Celtic and the rest in Scotland. And when it comes to financial chasms, you see it in Europe as well. The way that Borussia Dortmund handed out that doing to Celtic in the Champions League, and it can make such a difference. I think for most people, the smart money is on a Celtic victory this weekend, and I've reeled out the stats, obviously. And that obviously poses the question, how do you think Celtic will approach this match? Do you think they'll be utterly champing at the bit, rampant to prove a point almost and smack Aberdeen aside?
Well, they've had a little break as well. The last game, obviously, against Ross County, they were coming off the back of the Borussia Dortmund game. So they did look as if they had a little bit of a hangover from that to get the job done up in Dingwall. But this time they'll have allowed players to have a wee bit of rest, and then obviously working towards this game, they'll have a full week of getting injuries back and freshness within the team. So they will be on the money. They'll be sharp. They'll be looking to put one over Aberdeen, because all the chat, everybody's chatting about Aberdeen will do this, Aberdeen will do that. But Celtic have got themselves in an incredible position. Both teams 100% record. It's just going to be a cracker. It's going to be great. I'm really looking forward to it.
Quick prediction then, Stephen. Celtic have been utterly rampant so far this season, apart from the Borussia Dortmund blip, obviously. I'm going to ask you for a scoreline.
I think Celtic 3-1. The warning sign for me from the Celtic point of view is the last time off the back international break. Obviously, the guys come back from Canada, Japan. They weren't quite as firing against Hearts. I think the message from Brendan Rodgers will be, if we play like that tomorrow, Aberdeen are a better side. Saturday, they're a better side than Hearts. They'll cause us real issues. I think Celtic will find that extra gear. They know how big a game it is. I think they'll win 3-1.
Lee, same question to you. What do you think the scoreline will be at Celtic Park?
I'm going to go a draw. A score draw. 2 each. I think it'll be a really exciting game. I think Aberdeen have got a lot to prove. Everybody's saying this is their test, this is their challenge. I think Jimmy Tilleen will have them right up for it. I think they will play on the counter, will soak up a lot of pressure, and I think obviously Aberdeen have to hope that Celtic have an off day in front of goal, because they will create chances because they're a quality side. But if Aberdeen do get the chances, they need to stick them away. They need to be clinical. So it's poised for an excellent game.
A fascinating fixture awaits, that's for sure.
This is the shocking moment English football has been dreading.
My name is Moses Swebu, and I used to be a professional footballer. But then I got in deep with organised crime and became a match fixer operating in the English League.
A match-fixing investigator has highlighted 2 matches he says appear to have suspicious betting patterns.
How honest are you going to be with me? This is 100%. Join me for Sports Strangers Crimes presents Confessions of a Match Fixer. Listen on BBC Sounds.
Quick one too on Hearts, another one of your former clubs, Lee. They got their man Neil Critchley over the international break. Former QPR and Blackpool manager. He's been around down south, spells at Liverpool, working with Steven Gerrard at Aston Villa. Your initial thoughts?
Well, seeing it on Twitter and stuff, a lot of the fans are split with this decision of the manager. I don't know if he was the first choice, but he does come with a decent pedigree. He's been about down in England. He's worked with Steven Gerrard. So I think every managerial appointment is a gamble. It is a gamble. You looked at Ange Postecoglou coming in. Nobody wanted him at Celtic. Were like, no, that's not our first choice. And he went and done tremendous things at Celtic. So I think you've got to give him the benefit of the doubt. You've got to give him a chance and see what it takes, because Hearts have got a very good squad. They're underachieving massively just now. And if they can get a really good manager to take them to the next level, I think they will kick on again.
They're up against St Mirren at Tynecastle on Saturday. A lot, Stephen, is made of this stats guy, Tony Bloom, that seems to be helping direct traffic now at Hearts in terms of appointments and all the rest of it. There was clearly an intention to get Per Matthias Hogmo over the line. That never happened. So Neil Critchley's clearly not the first choice. As Lee mentions, the fans seem a bit split. The jury might be out over this. What's your take on it?
I think it's getting harder and harder for football boards to appoint managers because of social media. There's so many reporting on the ground. I'm sure for years and years, managers being appointed weren't the first or second choice, but you hear about talks, you hear about everything, and you think that's the number one, and anything but the guy is second choice. So he's been successful. He's had disappointments. He's been a coach for a long, long time. After Michael Beale left to be his own man at Aston Villa, Neil Critchley was in at Aston Villa and absolutely a top coach. So what he doesn't have, what we won't see probably for a number of transfer windows, is that real influence of Tony Bloom. If that's going through, if that's going to happen in terms of signings coming in, I think the long-term future of Hearts will look a lot brighter once we get through a couple of transfer windows. But in the immediate future, they've got some big games coming up. Obviously, St Mirren game on Saturday coming round. That was one of Stephen Naismith's last games. I thought Hearts were quite good in the first half. It was a game decided by set pieces. So I'm sure he's doing his homework this week and what type of challenge he'll face. And obviously the European game and that massive Edinburgh derby just around the corner.
Just finally, though, we have to finish on the big news, really, and that is that Lee Miller is back in training.
Oh, no.
Intense training for the Masters, which, Lee, are happening up in Aberdeen, and you are part of the Aberdeen All-Star team. Am I correct?
I am. Yes, I am. And I'm over in Lanzarote just now doing some warm weather training. It'll be a good laugh. I'm looking forward to it. I have done wee bits and bobs here and there leading up to it. It's one of those ones, Stephen will tell you don't want to do too much. It's a kind of balancing act. If I do too much, my calves will go. So I need to just kind of spell it. But no, I'm looking forward to it. It's my debut in the Masters, and it'll be good fun.
Stephen, are you too young to be included in the Masters yet, or are you involved?
No, I'm not involved. No, I've actually not missed playing football yet. I don't know if that comes or if it's just gone forever.
Maybe you never liked playing football in the first place.
I don't miss it.
I loved it, but I don't miss the old swollen knee on Sunday and Monday mornings.
Yes, it's the aches and pains.
How do you think you'll be feeling once the Masters is complete, presumably after having lifted the trophy, Lee?
Up in Aberdeen, yeah. I'll be in bits. I'll be in absolute bits. So, but no, I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to seeing some old faces I played against, played with, and it's obviously up in Aberdeen, so there'll be a decent crowd there for us. And it's Aberdeen, Dundee United, Rangers, and Celtic. So, no, it'll be good. It'll be good crack.
The very best of luck, and we look forward to you parading the trophy on the next Scottish Football podcast.
That's if I can walk the next day.
That's all we got time for. My thanks to Lee Miller and Stephen McGinn. We'll be back tomorrow to look ahead to all the rest of the weekend action. Remember to subscribe and all that jazz so you don't miss a single episode. Scottish Football, the gift that keeps on giving. Thanks for listening.
For everything you need to know about your team this season, download the BBC Sport app. All the latest news, goal updates, stats and scores, and insight and analysis. Just select your club to get the biggest stories and best content at your fingertips. What a result. Download the BBC Sport app for everything you need to know about your team this season.